Hi guys, since recording this podcast, I just wanted to note that the officer who had his knee on George Floyd's neck, the charge against him has been raised to second-degree murder since I recorded this podcast.
Hi guys. Um, the past week has been emotional. Some people are hurt, some are angry, some are frustrated, fed up. A whole range of emotions which have led to protests. We have peaceful protests and not so peaceful protests, looting. We'll get into all of that. But of course, what I'm talking about here, what started it and what has the whole world talking, is the murder of George Floyd at the hands of a white police officer. Officers, including those who stood back and allowed these events to occur. An innocent black person being killed, an a non-threatening black person being killed by a white person of authority. It isn't new, and this has been going on for far too long. Racism has been going on for too long. Abuse of power has been going on for far too long, and it needs to stop. We are all humans, and no one, and certainly no colour, is more superior than another. We are all human. We all come into the world. We all live. We all breathe. We cry, we laugh, and we die. But the way in which we die shouldn't be at the hands of a person whose job it is to protect. Shouldn't die based on the colour of your skin. In no world can anyone convince me that more than one officer couldn't handle an unarmed black man who had his hands cuffed behind him, and that the only option that they had was extreme force and the knee to the back of his neck, blocking his windpipe in the process. Yeah, if you need to hold him down, you can do that without blocking his airway. It's that simple. The force used was excessive and unnecessary, and we've established that. And the officer has been charged. And the fact that he has been charged is progress, but there's still a way to go because, and I'm not fully brushed up on American law, but so correct me in the comments if I get any of this wrong, but in America there's 3 murder charges. There's first degree, which is premeditated intent to kill. This would be like a strategic murder, I guess. And then there's second degree murder, where it's not premeditated, but in that moment or situation, you actively make the decision to kill, which is what I think has happened in George Floyd's case. And third degree murder, which is where your actions led to the death of someone, but you didn't mean to kill them. And that third degree murder is what the officer is being charged with. Third degree murder, a murder where your actions led to the death of someone, but you didn't mean to kill them. That's third degree murder, as I understand it, and that's what the officer's being charged with. I don't agree with that charge. I believe it should have been, in my opinion anyway, it should have been second degree. I'm not a lawyer. I don't work on the police force. I'm not a judge. I'm not a juror. But to me, this feels like it should have been second degree based on the little knowledge that I do have. if you have your knee on the back of a person's neck and he is telling you he can't breathe and is in pain, and you continue to hold your knee in place for over 8 minutes, you know what you're doing. You know you're going to kill him. Human beings need to breathe to live. He can't breathe. He's telling you he can't breathe. And as a result of something you are doing to him, he can't breathe and you choose to keep your knee in place for nearly 10 minutes. That officer made his choice to murder. That's my opinion. And I think the officer has gotten off lightly with the lightest murder degree. And now, of course, we have to await the sentence. What kind of prison sentence will he get? Will it be cushioned or not? And by that I mean, will he be in the same prison as other killers and criminals, with the same food and the same treatment as them? Or will he get special treatment, making things more comfortable for him, like a cell to himself and better food and heightened police protection from other criminals in the prison? We'll see. Oh God, this makes me feel really emotional. It's horrific. It's 2020 and racism still exists. How embarrassing for humanity. And of course, it's led to protests and looting, and it's muddy water because some of the protests are peaceful and others are not peaceful. I don't understand the need for the looting. That to me seems opportunistic. Opportunistic. What did I just say? Opportunistic. Just taking advantage of a situation, stealing. I don't understand how destroying businesses that people have spent years building up is going to help the situation. It feels a little counterproductive to me. It's people's livelihoods. People were probably hoping to go back to work following the lockdown and start making money so they can live. I don't understand how looting is productive and fights racism. But to be honest, I'm not going to dwell on the looting too much because ultimately this is about racism and racism needs to stop. And this is about abuse of power from authorities whose job it is to protect the public by taking criminals off the streets and putting them in jail, not killing them. It's not their job to decide the fate of people's lives on the streets unless that person is causing severe harm and distress to people and they need to be taken down, in which case police officers, I believe, are trained to manage that and make decisions in that situation. But ultimately you have to try and keep the criminal alive so that they can be sentenced and justice can be served. But it's not the police officer's decision to just walk around killing whoever he or she feels like killing. That's not up to them. No, they're supposed to handcuff the criminals, get them in the car, bring them to the police station for questioning and charging, and if it needs to go to sentencing, it will go to sentencing, and the judge and the jurors step in there at that point. I don't have a problem with those protesting. They're standing up for a change, and not all of them are protesting in a violent way. And the same way, not all police officers are racist or abuse their powers. I think there are individuals on both sides who are letting their sides down. There's been numerous videos posted online showing officers still using more force than required, pushing people over. I saw one video of an elderly man with a cane being pushed down. There's videos of the police driving into crowds of people. There was one video where the car was kind of driving through the crowds. There was no one in the way, but the officer opened the door of a moving car just so that they could strike an individual with the car. Completely unnecessary. But then there was also another video of, I think it was a black woman who was down on her knees, and a white police officer got down on his knees and hugged her. So it's not all bad, but it's not all great either. And I think President Trump's focus on the protesters and sending in officers and resources to place curfews and impose them, his response feels like fighting fire with fire and doing the very thing that these people are protesting against. How does America, the United States of America, have a president who is so switched off with what is going on that he would fight fire with fire? That's not leadership. And what blows my mind is the officers don't even seem to mind that they're being filmed. And when George Floyd was being murdered on the street, they didn't seem to mind being filmed using the force that they were, with his hands in his pockets, kneeling on his neck. He did not seem to mind one little bit that he was being filmed. The same way that they don't seem to mind that they're being filmed during the protest, pushing people over. And, it's just angering people further. And there's no sight of resolution or change. And that's what needs to happen, change. Change in the way people view skin colour to be more or less superior than others. Change in the way different skin colours are treated. Change in the abuse of power. Change in the way in which people lead. Change in the education of people. And on that, if you have followed hashtag Black Lives Matter with no, hashtag All Lives Matter, then you're part of the problem. Because no one's saying all lives don't matter. No one is saying black people are trying to make themselves more superior. You don't need to feel threatened, okay? Black Lives Matter is a movement to equal the playing field of the human race and acknowledge the fact that black people have been treated differently, negatively for far too long, and it needs to change. We cannot have black people being targeted and killed simply because of the pigmentation on their skin. Black Lives Matter, and this is a problem that we all need to face and we all need to make a change for, so no more innocent lives are lost. So that people can go for a run without fear. Walk with their hands in their pockets without fear. Get pulled over for a speeding ticket without fear of having a gun pulled on them by the officer. How many people have been pulled over by police for speeding and feared for your life at the hands of that officer? Many black people do, but white people maybe not so much. Asian people perhaps not as much. I am Asian and I've never been pulled over and feared for my life. I don't fear for my life when I walk with my hands in my pockets and I bump into a police officer. But unfortunately, in America, especially black people, that's the reality of their lives. It needs to stop. This racism needs to stop. And it sickens me that there's still people out there who are racists. Some of them who are doing it quietly, waiting for things to calm down before they emerge back out from their racist rock, and others who are blatantly supporting loud racists and trying to undermine this movement in humanity that so desperately needs to happen. It's so long overdue. It needs to happen. No one is born a racist. So think about the information that you're exposed to and that you choose to absorb, and what you choose to say in the face of situations like racism. Black Lives Matter.